Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Conversations with an Investor. We've got Robbie back on again for another deep dive, this time not into the world of day trading, but rather what tricky stuff he got up to beforehand. So we're going to cover off the underworld, skipping bail, making it into Miami, how to find another passport, all the twists and turns, the drugs, the rock and roll, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's dive right in. What's just 7:30, something like that?
7:30. Nice steady one.
Yes. So we had a really good chat last time, but we had a sort of fly in a wall convo, which it was really good. A lot of people liked it. They liked hearing the twists and tales. But this podcast, we're going to go into a bit more of what happened beforehand, a bit more about your story, and I think a great place to start is, where did it all begin? You're very, very proud of your Yorkshire heritage, as you can see with your names and tag handles. So was that where you were from?
Yeah, York, just east of Leeds. So you sort of get Manchester, Leeds, over to York, over to the east coast. So yeah, just not a million miles away from sort of Harrogate, pushing over to Ripon, come down over to the east coast. So yeah. York's a nice place. York is really a nice place, but as you've tapped onto it, with that nice heritage comes a price tag. I think York is one of the most affluent prices or postcodes outside of London. It's in, I think, one of the top 5. So yeah, I suppose that's where the want and need for money stemmed from, really, because of the lifestyle.
So, like, when you were a kid growing up, what was your aspirations? What did you want to do?
Football.
So you didn't see yourself in Thailand trading the Han Sang?
No, not at 12 years old, unfortunately. I mean, like I think we touched base before when I said I was tricky and not devious, but, for my parents, I had a motorbike and I stashed it in the local field. And I think when you've got that element of, I don't know what you would call it. Like, now you're probably an entrepreneur, or you're a bit out there. Elon Musk, was Elon Musk going to have PayPal and be one of the richest men in the world? Probably not. So you've got something there within you where I'm not a 9-to-5 guy, but yeah, I'm here on a Friday night when all my mates are at the pub. So I've got that element of work ethic, and I knew that for me, I did work experience from school. I did extended work experience, so I was taken from school, your traditional sort of work experience. And I did an extended 4-week, like an approvership sort of thing. And I was going to get taken on by the council, but whatever happened didn't work. So like I said, there's obviously something there that the teachers have seen. I did a little, like I say, work experience extended when I was at school. So
what were you doing? What was your work experience? What were you doing there?
It was plumbing, joinery, and building. So I did 2 weeks on each. Mm-hmm. And the 2 weeks that I liked, I ended up going to York College and being training to be a plumber. So I did that I got an apprenticeship, did all various qualifications, went to York College and did that for a period of time, and then went on the tools, and from there went on to mechanical engineering. So I knew one of my tutor, my mentor, was 60 odd years old and been doing it forever and a day. And you had that parabolic move within plumbing where it got quite sexy and fancy. And I just fell upon it. It's a bit like your Bitcoin boys or your crypto boys fell upon crypto. They held onto it because it was pennies and they could see the move, and they kept hold of it, and they ended up being very wealthy. And I think this chap was doing it back in the day when it wasn't as sexy, wasn't as lucrative. So I came into it at the latter stages when it was, plumbers were making £1,000 a week back in early 2000s, which was, a good money back then. That was probably like making 2,000-3,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
So
What did you? So how long were you there? Like, how long did you do plumbing for?
So I did plumbing. I did my apprenticeship for 3 years. Was on the tools for a year or so, but very quickly I realised the money for me wasn't necessarily setting up my own business or being on the tools. I enjoyed the technical side of plumbing. So we can fit a boiler, we can put gas to it, we can put water to it, so on and so forth. But how does the boiler work? So I went on to mechanical engineering, and I went on to Leeds College of Building and did a BTEC in engineering, and that was really, really fascinating. And I think that's, like you say, I've been a bit of a tricky lad, but it's not just because I wanted to play cricket to have the money or go golfing or do this. I wanted to understand what I was doing. And I think a lot of my friends and family, they always say I've got Asperger's. You're too involved. Who goes to Thailand and sells all the cars and the watches and does this, that, and the other, and ends up the other side of the world? When I was doing things in Ibiza many moons ago, I knew that there was a cash flow scenario in Ibiza, or I knew that I was never going to reside in England, and obviously when the politics. So you kind of jump around in life, and it's hard to pigeonhole it, or we can talk about it and decipher it. Mm-hmm. But for me, I feel like it's a whirlwind, but I've always been sort of semi in charge, even when I was in my plumbing days or when I got involved with the underworld and I had a business that was doing car and commercials. And it kind
so
of
safe to say that you've started in the traditional framework of like, yeah, we'll do, the standard apprenticeship, we'll go and learn a trade, and you've realised that, hey, this is a square peg in a round hole. I'm probably suited to something else other than this. It sounds like that.
I think the plumbing and the mechanical engineering, when I was going into meetings and I was an estimator at the start, I was looking at drawings, and I knew that the people that I was surrounded by, I wouldn't say didn't know, but then when I would estimate a job with the electrical, so I did M&E, mechanical and electrical. I didn't do the electrical, but you were doing projects with 300,000-400,000. So M&E, it might be £1 million. So when you handed it over and you won the project, and then you handed it over to the project manager, the project manager said, "You stay close to me," because he knew that I was on point. I was tricky, like I keep saying. So I made his life easier because I had estimated the job. I was passing it to him, and essentially he would have this job that he'd end up on site and think, right, I need to order these parts and materials, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of mechanical engineering work, break it down to labour, and it was really exciting. So I knew that when I was only quite young now, I was in my early 20s. So the project managers, I would learn from them, and it was, I knew that I started the apprenticeship quite young, and I knew after a period of time I would earn my stripes, a bit like the gym and everything else in life.
So see, we're saying that you were a bit tricky. What, for people that haven't heard that before, what does that mean?
I suppose the modern day term is an entrepreneur. You've got to think outside of the box. You've got to know your limitations on very well what I can and can't do. So if I can't do something, but there's an amount of money on the table, or someone, say, for example, back in the underworld days, if someone wanted X, Y, and Z, but I couldn't do it, I'd speak to A, B, and C. So I'd put people together. It was all very well managed, very well procured. You'd just be able to make things happen if you were not able to make it happen yourself. I think that's what tricky means.
Yeah, good. Well, so what happened next then? You go into this sort of world where you're understanding how the component parts of a big machine goes together. You started with boilers and the gas, and then you've moved into the mechanical engineering, and you're looking at projects and you're like, well, I'm picking up the wisdom here from people that have done this for years. How long were you there? How long did you continue doing that?
A couple of years.
And is that going to give you the type of? It sounds like you had aspirations to sort of make a few quid. I mean, is mechanical engineering a path that you could do something like that with?
Great money. I ended up going solo for probably 6 months, or probably maybe a year. So the company I worked for ended up back in York, ironically enough. A company called Hadrian Duke, a good friend of mine. He had an electrical company. So they were trying to price jobs up and didn't have the mechanical side, so the plumbing or the commercial plumbing side of the business. So he had an interview that wanted a mechanical engineer. I was quite junior at the time, but the projects that he had wasn't multi-millions of pounds worth, like, creating Heathrow 5 or something like that. They were quite small projects. So I said, show me what projects I'll be tendering for, or you've got a finger in the pie for, and we can go from there. So very quickly I understood that the business was quite small, where they wanted to go. They wasn't overstretching themselves. And I knew that I had a role to play. And I'm quite a fair man, where if I can't help you, you can't help me. Like, this is quite good, the podcast, because you go back and forward. There's a few good, topics. And that's life. He wanted a service, and if I couldn't do it, I couldn't do it. And we did that for probably a year. We got 2 or 3 big projects, which lasted a year. So each project would overlap, or you'd do them simultaneously. And that was quite good. I learned a lot there, a lot of friends, and a lot of life lessons. But that's when I was getting involved with the underworld. I had.
So what was the start? When did you start getting involved in the underworld, and what was the impetus for it? What was the lure?
So it all started when I was probably in my early 20s. So the guys would say to me, "There's 10 of us going out tonight. We want X, Y, and Z. Whatever that floated the boat. Cigarettes, vapes, whatever it was. Obviously, it was Class A back then."
Yeah.
So I'd say, right, give me a list. I know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy. One of them. So they'd say, right, get me 3 of these, 5 of these, 10 of these. No problem. Yeah. So I'd run off, biggish guy in the gym. Right, matey boy, give me this. There's 1,500 quid there. Jobs are good, and got a little bit myself. There's loads of us going out. His mate wants some stuff, and his mate wants some stuff. So I'd probably earn 500 quid off this list, right? Mm-hmm. That was every week, and I was only in my early 20s. So that was a week's wage for most men back then, including myself. So then where it really stemmed, where the light bulb moment or the switch really clicked, was when I stopped going out. I had a house, I had a missus that we didn't go out. We were having pizza on a Friday, Saturday night, but the orders were coming in. And that's really where I thought to myself, well, if I'm not going out, I'm not blowing 300-400 quid, I'm not taking all of this stuff. So my profits were kind of doubled. And then what it was is then their mates were saying, well, if he's getting that, well, I want the bulk and I want this. And then 100 of this turned into this, and half a kilo of this turned into this. And before you know it, I was looking after the guys that was used to look after the guys. And yeah, I won't say cornered the market, but York's quite a small place. And we had somewhat of a monopoly on it. And, my people and new people were obviously in the same cities and whatnot. And you end up going out with them on a Friday, Saturday night, taking your girlfriend, as opposed to staying into a nightclub at 3-4 in the morning. You go for a dinner with somebody, and the stakes or the ladder you was climbing the rung of, even though I didn't really see it like that and I was never better than anybody. That's when it started being a business more than social supply, which I never got done for social supply, because it was only ever friends of friends, even sort of 10 years on, without dropping my finger in it or dropping my foot in it. That was it really. When I started treating it as a business, and then the numbers were making numbers.
So what sort of jump? I mean, if you're talking about you're treating it as a business, like if you're doing it sort of casually and you're clearing a week's wage at 500 quid, I mean, what was the sort of jump that you were looking at?
I'd like to say 10 grand a day and all this, but I'm not going to lie. It was never about that. I'd probably say 2.5 to 3 every week. 10 grand a month.
That's profit.
Yeah, 100% profit.
And how are you managing? Like, how are you managing you're obviously knowing that you're doing something that could get you caught, and that there's some repercussions from it. How are you dealing with those emotions? Did they cross your mind? Is it something you thought about? Were you like, was it the risk reward, or were you sort of naive to think, well, I won't get caught? I mean, that's a classic one. Where were you at on that scale?
Yeah, I believed that I was super smart. So if I had X amount of surplus cash, I'd go to one of my friends that had a car dealership, buy a car for 10 grand, sell it for 9,500, put the money in the bank, or maybe sell the car for 10,500 and make £500. So I was kind of one step ahead in terms of I'm not going to get caught, not blasé, but if I've done a transaction and the narcotics have gone and the cash has gone, then on to the next one.
And was it purely like, was it a case of initially you'd started off like you weren't holding stuff particularly long? You were, you're picking it up, you're dropping it off, you're collecting the cash, and then you're putting that cash somewhere else. Like, was that where it stayed, or did it start to escalate?
No, I think I was always very well aware that I was either a good middleman or a good connection or a trustworthy guy or something in between. I don't think it ever got to the stage where I had 20,000 here and 50,000 here and I've got 10 Rolexes. I was never that sort of character, whilst the guys that I knew and worked with and so on and so forth, and over to Dubai and well up the ladder. The real wealth came from when I came out of jail and kind of dipped my toe in the water ever so slightly in terms of the monetary side of things. That's when things really, when I was in jail, I really understood where I was, which was medium sort of level, to the guys that was importing it, working with Colombians over in Amsterdam, over in Belgium, and you're not far off. I'm not saying in terms of wealth, but you're not far off knowing a guy that knows a guy that is making hundreds of millions every other day.
Would you see? So what was the progression like? So you've stopped going out. You're treating it more as a business. Like, where did it go from? So explain to me what happens between when you start to treat it as a business and when you ended up in jail. What was the timeline of that?
So when I was in my early 20s, I think that's when, in hindsight, things started going downhill, because I was taking a lot of steroids, and then from there, I'm not saying that steroids is the reason why I went to jail by any stretch, but 1 minute you're a normal guy, the next minute you're on 10 grand a month, the next minute you're a 20-odd-year-old guy that has probably been one of the better shaped guys in my little local area. From there, the women, the money, and you that's when kind of I thought I'd go to Ibiza, I'll go on to Dubai, I'll go to mainland Spain, I'll mix it with the guys in Amsterdam, and the real, I'll start climbing the ladder, really. So I've never really been asked that question. It's a good question. But I think from there on in, it was my bravado. I'm in my mid-20s. I go to Ibiza, went there on a holiday. I met this Manchester firm, heavy guys. I thought, I can do what you can do. And I know I can. And they knew that I could. And we actually did a bit of work when I did go to Ibiza in 2012. Different firms from Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, London, Essex. Kind of didn't link up as such, but you didn't have much problems. If you had something, you wanted to sell it.
So when you say firms, they were in the same line of work. I mean, are they sort of doing? Is it predominantly they're looking to deal with the narcotics side? Or are they looking for the collections and?
No, they are. it's kind of weird how the underworld works. Me, obviously, we wouldn't do any business, but if we did some business, it's based on trust. So if someone's got something, 10 kilos of something, and the owner is the guy that's funded it in Dubai, you're never going to know that. So if he's bought 10 kilos of cocaine, you're not going to know that. He's entrusted it with a guy that's probably bought it from Europe into England. And then 2 or 3 transactions later, it falls upon someone like myself. I'm not saying I've ever done that volume. There's 10 kilos. What can you get for it? Oh, I can sell it in 3 days. There you go. Get the cash. Drop the cash off. That's it, done. It's all based on trust.
When you're saying trust, it sounds like, I mean, again, I'm just falling into business mode here. It sounds like you're talking about people's initial thing of trust would be that they like you, that they you know, you're not going to do anything wrong. But I'm thinking you've got a credit agreement, right? So what's happening is someone is putting up whatever it is, cocaine, and you're then getting that to sell it, and you're going to distribute the money back to them and keep your margin on it. So you're operating on credit terms.
Absolutely. Essentially, what it boils down to is these guys have already got millions and millions. So if they're living in Dubai, Thailand, or where England, they've got that much cash where it's not feasible, it's not logical for them to stop. So if they stop and they're already sitting on the beach in Dubai, for example, it's not feasible for them to stop because that £1 million float, they might double it in a year. But where can you double £1 million in the bank or elsewhere if it's not the grey market or the underworld? Mm-hmm. So really, it's in their interest to take 1 or 2 losses, wherever it may be, because if somebody takes X amount, 10% of that on credit, £100,000, they're going to pay. Believe you me, they're going to pay.
Yeah, because I mean, they're in that world where it's like you're not taking them to a court, you're not instructing lawyers. You're going to have some heavy duty characters come to see you to say, look, we're making it clear under no uncertain terms, this will be paid. It's not going to be.
I think all the soaps when I used to watch the soaps on Parents back in 90s, you had all these, Del Boy, All and Fools and Horses, so on and so on, these sort of characters, and I suppose I'm not too dissimilar myself. I'm not quite a Rodney, but you've got these sort of characters where when you're dealing with proper money, hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions, things tend to work smoother because if it doesn't, there's got to be an issue. If something is being caught, no problem. I pass that to you, Gio. You've been caught with it, no problem. That's it. This door's gone over, been 100 kilos caught, it'll be on the news in 24 hours. No problem. But if someone wants to be what we call a rat or a little snake.
So stop that. Go back there. So what you're saying is, like, for instance, just so I follow this right. Say you've got a guy he's in the game. He's wanting to maximize what float he's got. He's going to distribute that money, and he's going to accept that there's going to be some losses, right? But when you get to the loss, what happens is if someone is caught with that, then they accept that as a loss and it's part of the game and that's fine. But if somebody's up to no good and trying to be sneaky, then that's where there's a significant problem. Have I followed you right?
Yes and no. If you give me something, me and you have done a deal, and I owe you $500,000 in 28 days, I can come to you then and say, I've only got 450,000 because it's taken too long. If I say, I'm taking that $500,000, I'm going to double it in 28 days. That's different. You're kind of in on that, and there might be some losses and whatnot. But if you're the guy that's imported it, or you're the guy that's given me this, then that's a simple transaction. If I give you 10 cars at £50,000 and you sell them, you've earned £500,000. I might have earned £100,000 on you. So it depends how far you want to go. Like, there's not many people that are dealing that sort of telephone numbers that then I've lost it. If they have a loss where they've imported millions and millions, but then 5 kilos gets caught going from London to Manchester, well, that's it's all above board.
Are they writing that off though? Is it a case of the guy that's got?
Yeah. The big guy. If it's police, it's somebody into intervention like that. Absolutely, paperwork. He's been caught. That's it. They aren't bothered. The big guys up there, the proper big guys. The spillage, that's spillage in a pub, that's nothing, that's pennies. But if you give someone like, hey, Gio, that 50 kilo I give you at 50 grand, 50 times 5, 250 grand. I've only got 200. Right, where's the other 5? Oh, that'll be next week. Right, no problem. But if that other 5 don't come, then you know yourself. Like when you're dealing with that sort of people, even the idiot on the street knows that if you owe someone £500,000, they're going to get it because that might not even be £500,000 profit. It might be 300 grand profit. So they're already at a loss. So they're working for free. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah, and what was the progression? So you went up to 2-3 grand a week, which is good money, especially at the age you were then. If 500 quid was a good week to a man, and you're young up and coming whip start, that's like, hey, look, I'm earning 6 times that. That's big money. It sounds like when you said something there that it made me think this wasn't all money. When you were talking about climbing the ladder, it seemed that you thought you could go higher up, and that sounded like the drive to you rather than, hey, look, I'm wanting to make 10k a week, 20k a week, 50k a week.
Well, you've got. So what I used to do is get an amount of stuff in my hand and break it down into little bits, like little baggies, 10 pills, and cost me £1, selling for £5. So there's a lot of little transactions there, a lot of people, so on and so forth. But when you climb the ladder and you get people giving you 3 kilos of cocaine, and you can either sell that little baggies, you can buy that, you can throw it in the bin, you can do what you want with it. So you're going from sort of small street deals to 4 people wanting a part of this 3 kilo cocaine. So then you might put 750 on each part of this 4 kilo. So it's kind of it's different businesses. You're going from street level, little bits and pieces, social supply, or you're going to, what's pretty much serious
wholesale. And what was
you can do, you can get 10 kilos and sell it to somebody, but you're better off buying them 10 kilos and selling it to 10 individual people rather than selling them to one person because he wants a deal on 10 kilos. If I buy 10 bottles of water, I want them cheaper than I do when I buy 1 bottle of water. If you go to a bar in Thailand, you buy 3 shots, you want 1 free.
Yeah. What about so in terms of timeline, how long what's the scale from going to making small deal bags to 3-4 kilos? What time? How long would that take to get to ascend to doing that sort of work?
Well, I never said that we're doing 3-4 kilos. I just said that I kind of
allegedly, if someone was going to do that kind of thing, what would be the expected timeline?
Well, I mean, not too dissimilar from myself, really. What I got caught with, which was it's on there on in the public interest, it's on the internet. Mm-hmm. Gone from social supply, where like you say you can make 500 quid. I mean, you only need to make 50 quid on 10 deals, and that's 500 quid. Mm-hmm. Over to getting bulk. So depending on your client base and how your risk appetite. I mean, for me, it was a couple of years really. But then you wasn't dealing with the little street little baggies. You were getting, like you say, an amount of something, whether it be weed, ketamine, MDMA, whatever it may be, and it was more in and out. That had come in instead of getting into quarters. Into 100 milliliters. You'd just sell it in 4 quarters.
So, was it mainly the party drug scene that you were into? Was that? How does it work? Is it a case of when I look at an industry's you've got a sort of overarching label, and then there's sub industries within it. So it's as when you look at the drug world, for instance, or the underworld, it seems like that's the industry. But is there sort of different parts that you can go into, and which one were you in?
Well, essentially, I mean, you're not normal stuff that we all know of. Cocaine, crack, heroin, weed. There's only several sort of recreational, normal drugs out there. Never did the heroin sort of scene or the crack. It was more what I got caught with. The class A's and the class B's. And yeah, it was the party scene, really. I always said I was never a drug dealer. I always served a purpose to the party people of the world. So when I went to Ibiza, I could have sold beer in a nightclub or have an involvement with the narcotic scene. And
So, like, when you say you went to Ibiza, so just we'll go back to you were in, you're escalating through the scene in York, then you get involved with a few boys that are doing things from other parts of the UK. What was the impetus to then go to the places that you mentioned abroad? Like, what was next? What was after you started to work your way up?
the catalyst was when I think it was 2011. I went with my friend, my girlfriend at the time, and his girlfriend or wife. And I met a Manchester firm over there, quite a heavy mob. And they were in a hotel sort of beach club bar, real well known at the time. Called Canyas it was, Canyas. And we're in there and we were having a little tickle and a little party and a few lines of sniff. And this little firm, my missus and my mate's missus said, "Oh, we're going to go back because we're out at dinner at 7:00." And by this point, we're well oiled at this time, and we've seen this firm up there, and they kept coming down and just mixing with us, and going upstairs. So I sort of said to one of them, "Hi, mate, I was things where you from? I'm from Manchester, mate. Yeah, come in here." So you go into the toilet, you have a little chat, and then the next minute, come up to the villa. Go up to the villa, and they've got bags on bags and bags of stuff. And you're a bit like, bloody hell, who are these guys? And that was it, because I got pally with them then. And I thought, if you can do it, I'd already been doing it at the lower level. It was the same business. It was just abroad, but it was more money. And there was an element of importation, which I knew I'd get my head around. I knew people in Europe at this point. I knew people in Amsterdam. I knew what I could get because they were importing it into England. So if I were already getting it in Europe, I was getting it cheaper. And I knew some people that were doing some stuff with the Indians or regarding ketamine and various other things with different nationalities. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a little go at this. I'm going to send and do what I'm going to do over in Europe, over to Ibiza, mainland Spain, Ibiza, do what I'm going to do. I'm going to double my money, which I did, which I got caught with the money, which is on the internet. And that was it, really. So it went 1 year with this, and the next year I was there doing it.
So what were you said there? You said that, right, you've noticed these guys, you have seen that they look as if they're doing a decent amount, and it sounds like you've summed them up and thought, right, if you guys can do it, then I can certainly do this. Now, is it something that you go and you think, are you going to sort of team up with them, or are you going to go out yourself? Like, what's the normal sort of setup there?
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to step on anyone's toes.
I'm thinking that. I'm like, you don't want to, like, these guys are sort of showing you what they're up to, and then next minute you're sort of competitor.
No one was reinventing the wheel, because Ibiza had been popping since the 80s, 90s, and got well going in its 2000s. However, I'd just seen what they were doing, and I knew that there were no longevity in it, because they were partying, they were having it off. This apartment was probably £1,000 a week, and they had it for 12 weeks. They had M3s outside, M5s, an old M5, and they weren't going to last. Whereas myself,
what do you mean they weren't going to last? Like, in terms of they weren't going to last because they were too flash, or they weren't going to last because they were really burning the candle at both ends?
Well, both sides, yeah. They probably exhaust themselves. There was no business acumen there. Which, listen, I'm here in Thailand. I'm in the land where I've just seen Kamsat, where he's, my friends have said, listen, he can't fight. Like, really? You'd rip his head off? And I've just shown him a YouTube video. And, it's like, really? So I looked at them like they looked at, and that's what happens with social media. And that's why these podcasts are good, and what I do on my Instagram, whilst it's not for everybody, because people judge people. And I judge them on the basis that they were partying too much, they were spending too much. Even the monthly and weekly outgoings at the level that they was doing was unsustainable. I mean, lo and behold, to me, I did pretty much the same thing when I went out and and blew my bollocks out.
What do you mean what do you mean you blew your bollocks out in terms of you just got really roped up in the party life?
Yeah, well, like I said, I sent over some gym equipment and whatnot, and yeah, when you're a single man that's got X amount of money already in stock, I had 60 grams worth of stock anyway, so I knew I was going to double my money and at least walk home with 100,000. My apartment was paid for. I was staying above Canyon. I was doing what they were doing. Being the man that wasn't going to do that, wasn't going to drink, I was going to train twice a week, and I was already big at the time. And then you just fall into it. Day one, that's it. Girls round, this round. No one's cheating, killing each other, but it's just. I mean, if you could document something similar to that, which I think they tried doing with Love Island and whatnot, if you could see the real world of either a beefer or probably a beefer, really. Back then, it was, there were proper people and there were proper money floating around. None of this like save up for a table at Oceans and wank Wayne Lineker off for a hot minute. And this was serious people. I'm not saying I was a serious guy because I ended up being somewhat of a fool myself, but serious people. Not because it wasn't like 10. I don't even think 10, 12 years ago Instagram existed, so it wasn't as flamboyant. So when you're the guy that's doing it and you're putting it on the map and you're putting yourself on the map, hence the phrase, you're on the map. You're the guy doing it. Not there's a million of you in the beef for going over there doing this, that, and the other. There was only one or two proper people doing it back then.
So you go over to Ibiza, right? You've got these grand plans of getting the gym equipment in. You're like, I'm going to train. I'm going to do a business acumen. These guys are fucking leaving loads of meat on the bone here. They're blowing their bollocks out with cash and cars and drugs, and they're partying too hard, and their spending's too high, and they're just not doing it right. So you fly some gym equipment over, you think you're going to start this life, and you land there and you just start blowing your bollocks out.
Of course, yeah, rock and roll lifestyle. And
so what happened? What happened? You were said there that the year before you had a missus. I take it she wasn't bought into this plan.
Yeah, she's gone. She's well out the window. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, looking back, she was lucky she was ever there at the start. But anyway, that's that done. I mean, yeah, they are the prize, aren't we? And this is where it's all going now. Where who in their mid-20s were going to a beaver, doing what I was doing, mixing it with who I was mixing it with. All the people I was mixing it with, majority of the people were super, super wealthy. They're the guys that can make shit happen. You want a private jet flight from Ibiza to London, you can't go on booking.com and do that sort of shit. Back then, it was unheard of. Not saying that I did all of that, but these were serious guys. These were the guys that were flying around in private jets. These were the guys that were in Dubai before. I remember one of the guys told me, I think he thought I had more money than I had, told me about the Palm Islands. Buy this villa, it was £500,000. And people thought it was stupid. Michael Owen's buying it, Robbie Fowler, all these celebrities, footballers. I think back then the only people that could afford it were footballers. And now look at them, they're worth about £15 million a piece. So another Bitcoin moment that I missed out, another Tesla opportunity I missed out on. And that's why I went to Krabi the other week, yesterday, because you get these opportunities where you've got to, you don't have to go to a beefer to recognize these opportunities or do criminality like I have, but there's various opportunities that come about for various people, and you've got to jump on them, whether it's health, happiness, upset at times. That's an opportunity where you got to get out of it. So it's a funny old world.
So see, when you were in Ibiza, like you're in Ibiza, you're doing your bollocks in a bit. Like, is there a point where what's the situation with the authorities over there? Are they sort of turning a blind eye to this, or are you needing to pay them off, or what's the deal over there?
Yeah, well, Ibiza, I mean, they call it the party capital island of the world for a reason. So it's off mainland Spain. So there's 3 Balearic Islands: Mallorca, Menorca, and Ibiza. The other 2 are really beautiful. I mean, Ibiza's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I think they've just left Ibiza for all the clubs, for all of the money, for all of the manipulation or the corruption, whatever it is. They've just left it on this little island off the coast of mainland Spain, and it's allowed to happen. And that's not me randomly making it up. Ibiza's been a thing for many, many decades. where, as beautiful as it is, there's a lot of shit that goes on there.
Because it sounds like what you're describing there, it sounds like you've got an island that is a party scene. You've got people that are going out there and enjoying themselves. It's a very hedonistic lifestyle. They're going and taking all the party drugs, and you've got the guys that are over there supplying that market who are flamboyantly throwing around the cash, staying in the villas, got the fast cars parked outside, and the villas, like, I bumped into a guy in the toilet and I started chatting to him, and then we're up in the villa with bags of gear on the table. It's like, well, it seems like no one's making a big deal to cover up what they're doing, and that would lead you to think that, hey, look, this is open season. No one's really going to be, kicking the door in to disrupt this.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is. I don't know if there's a question there, but that's what you've just described is Ibiza. It's allowed to happen for 6 months of the year. If you continued it and you thought you was going to have this little, I don't know, this little secret crack den or this little after party month after month after the season, that won't be allowed to happen. That's when the authorities will come. But it's that undermanaged in terms of, or under policed, that 6 months of the year, this is what they do. Predominantly Brits abroad. Of course, you've got other nationalities there, but it's a place where the party season goes on. They pay these DJs millions. Calvin Harris, God knows what he gets, and that's why they all retire. David Guetta comes back. They all go there. Fatboy Slim. Why? If it's not the money, it's the scene. The scenes change anyway. It's not the same scene. When I went 2 years ago, opposed to 10 years ago, I went to Ushuaia when I used to do what I used to do. I had the little villas there. It was an open sort of home. Guys and girls would come along and you'd have a party. Now it's just, it has changed. It's a younger person's scene. Whilst when I was there, it was a younger person's scene, an up-and-coming place.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I mean is that it seems like the question I had was, is it just a case of they turn a blind eye, or is it corruption? Or is that a mixture of both?
You can't allow corruption to happen if it's not turned a blind eye. If they closed all the nightclubs down and searched everyone, of course they'd see stuff on the floor.
I mean, I've been to Ibiza. I mean, I know what you're describing, so it's not like it's unknown. But like what I'm trying to get my head around is if it was completely left off the chain, in terms of it was just a den of iniquity and people just went balls to the walls, it would be a cesspool. So there must be some sort of balance in there that's stopping it going completely fucking off the cliff, but also that to get to to have the reputation it has and what you see when you're over there, then there needs to be a bit of tolerance in terms of the authorities turning a blind eye. And it's in that it's a strange equilibrium where it's sort of got its own environment, but it's not pristine, but it's not like a fucking Detroit heroin crack den either. Like, it's in the middle.
Yeah, well, I think like you say, you've got your recreational sort of stuff. So your normal Joe that's a builder, lawyer, doctor, astronaut, goes to Ibiza, might dabble in a little bit of this, that, and the other, might stay up for a day or two, have a bit of sleep, get a bit of good food, come home after a week. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think it's that cycle repeated year on in, day after day, week after week. It's not a crack den, it's not a heroin den, it's not a meth den. It's very different to all like the places that you've suggested and mentioned in America. There's epidemics there. This isn't whilst it's pretty much a 24-hour in and out scenario, you see them all on the plane, falling asleep.
Robbie, I can't imagine. Like, what was your longest? Like, what you said the season there was 6 months. Are you doing this 6 months a year?
Yeah, so I did. So what happened was, when I went over, met that firm, went over the following year. So right, I'm here now. I'm in the same villa, same canyons. Bosh, let's have it. All the lads have come over from England, stay with me. Got double bedroom, like I think there were 3 double bedrooms, 1 double bed, 2 single beds. So you get 6 guys in there, nice and comfortable. And we had it off for a little while, a couple of weeks, and then they went back home because they were normal people. I'm a personal trainer, living in Ibiza, doing what I'm doing, selling gym equipment. And yeah, you do get into a routine. Like, I do go to the gym, I do take my gear, I do take my growth. I am big, I get my food in. And that's why coming here wasn't a shock to many people, because when I was in a position, or if anyone's in a position where they can live abroad, why wouldn't you do it? I didn't want kids. I knew back then I didn't want kids. I knew the women that I was with back then was just part and parcel of being a young man growing up. So, yeah, it's a funny one, really. Really
but what I'm saying to you is, like, you've went over there. So, what's the deal with the firm? Are they getting you to sort of start distributing it around? Like, what was the deal with the firm?
I didn't work for a firm. I took my own gym equipment over on the basis that I was going to double my money over the season. That was because I got them at trade price, selling them at retail price. So the markup would last me the duration of my holiday, or the duration of the season.
What you mean real gym equipment? This isn't code for narcotics.
No, it's code for narcotics. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you're gonna have a good time over there. You're gonna double your money. That's the plan. You've got some stock. You take it with you. You're gonna get a good lift. I get you, but like, I can't imagine you going balls to the walls in Ibiza for fucking 6 months. Like, I've seen people after 6 days, they literally look like they've been dragged through the 7 levels of hell.
The thing is, though, a joiner, a bricklayer, an engineer, people that work for people, or your normal Joe, I don't know, 80% of the population work for somebody, 60% of the population. So they get 4 or 5 holidays a year. So if one of them's in Ibiza, they're going to let loose. I did it the 2 years ago. I went there before. Got there, Ushuaia, £1,000 a night. Used to spend £300 there. 2 nights, drinking till 6 o'clock in the morning. Right, I'm not going to go to sleep. I'll have a bit of dicky. I'll have a bit of this, kitchen sinking it for an hour, mooching out. I'll drop a bit of this, sniff a bit of that. I'm an old boy. I'm 38 year old. No, I absolutely can't do it. But people, in their 20s, they might do it for a few days and then they'll recover, and then they'll do it the last few days, and then they've got to go home.
This is what I mean is, like, so when did you get into the rhythm? Like, you brought the boys over, they've came over from England, you've did 2 weeks at it, and you start to think, right, I'm going to double my money. Did you start to settle in terms of, you weren't partying, you weren't taking the the sniff, did you were training? Was that something that you got into the rhythm of? Or was it a case of did you just go like a fucking rocket ship for 6 months?
No. A lot of the people from North Yorkshire and West Yorkshire are already in Ibiza, so they'd either be there prior and need work, or they'd be going and needing work. So social media, give me your phone number, I'm going there for 2 weeks, I need X, Y, and Z. So I said, all right, we'll go and see my mate, because I'm not involved. So I'd load people up, and then they distribute what I took taken over. So my margin was my margin. Filter it through to the people that wanted it on the social supply. So I was the source, really, if you like, to the guys that were the middleman, to the guys that were coming over on holiday. We call them workers. That's the terminology. I'm in Ibiza, Gio's coming here to live. You've got no work. I give you work. You go and sell it. Right. So Gio, I give you £1,000 worth of stuff. You're going to sell it within a week. Give me, and then if you earn 2,000, you've doubled your money. Well, if you do that in 3 days, you've doubled your money in 3 days. If you do it twice in 1 week, you've earned £2,000 through me, and I've earned on the back of that. Very, very simple.
Mm-hmm. And so, what was the next level from there? So you've got guys coming over. They want to spend the summer in Ibiza. They're not going to work in a bar, so they think, here's a more lucrative way that I can turn a few quick bucks. I can still party. I can enjoy myself. I'm making enough money to party, and I've got a source of income. I can enjoy the life, and then I can return home after the season ends. And you're essentially providing the product that allows them to do it. You set up the deal, get it from here, get it from there, sort people have got what they need. Like, and what are you doing at this point? Like, what, like you are you still trying to sort of find your feet, or are you like, where's the next rung on the ladder? Like, what's going on with you now?
Because when I was there the year before, I'd seen how I lived. I was going to the gym. I had a girlfriend. I was training with my mate. We partied a few times, going to Pasha, having a meal, VIP table. So I knew next year this was going to be me. And in one respect, I'm glad what's happened, because at least people that know me in York and the surrounding areas, and maybe listen to this podcast, they'll say, yeah, there's no bullshit with it. I'd love to say to you, or people probably do, yeah, I was earning 20 grand a year, I was renting this, I was renting that. Obviously, the various elements of that came through on the back end of that. But it was, I'd already was aware of the holiday that I had when I was living there, that I could live there for a week or a month or the 6 months with the merchandise that I took over, that I was going to double my money. I was doing stuff back in England as well. That's why I actually got arrested.
So you were in Ibiza. You were in Ibiza, and you've still got it running in the UK. Like, so what happens next? Do you go to Dubai next, or do you get caught next in the UK?
Do I go what? Sorry.
So did you? I'm just trying to get my head round what happened next. So you've went to Ibiza to see what it's like. You've seen these lads doing it. You make the plan to go there next year. You get it up and running over there. Things are running well. What happens next?
So I did the season. Met a girl from Miami. She kept coming over. Kind of had this holiday romance, as you do. She said, come to Miami, cash your chips in. You're a young man, 20, 24, 25. Yeah, that's it. Right. Finishing the season, August, September, decided to go back. My little pocket load of cash.
Go back where? To the UK?
Yeah, back to the UK. So from Ibiza to Denia, all the way through Madrid to Santander overnight ferry to Plymouth.
Why are you taking the ferry?
Because how else can I walk across water?
The what?
How else can I walk across water?
Why did you not fly?
I had my
cash.
How else? How did I take the stuff out?
Right.
I paid someone to take the car out. I had a car in England, so when I had this grand plan of taking my gym equipment and merchandise to Ibiza, I had to pay someone to take it from England to Ibiza. And when they landed in Ibiza, that's when I flew out and got my car. Came back and drove the car back because I only had cash. Not a problem. All the guys have done the season, got back. Yeah, I did off, med this, med that, gone to Thailand. Thailand was a big thing. Well, for the serious guys. Now it's quite sexy, Thailand and Bali, because I think people are a bit overexhausted with Dubai, me included. So I just gone back, thought, right, that's it. Met the girl. I'm going to go to Miami for a month or so. Chilling.
How much cash did you have on you?
110. I got caught with
10K. 110.
Yeah. So I got caught with the 110.
What was your explanation as to why you've got 110 grand in cash on you?
I mean, this is actually on my father's life. So I landed in Plymouth in England from Spain, overnight ferry. Phone's a little bird from Miami. I said, right, let's get stuff popping. I'll be over in a 24 hours. Driving off, bearing in mind there's 200 cars or so in a line. Gets this little firm of like coppers coming up to me. Oh, excuse me, Robert, can you come over here? And that's when I knew. I thought, there's that many cars here. How would you know that? How have you singled out my car? I thought, no problem. I've got nothing on me, which at times in my life I've had too much on me. No problem. So I said, look at this. I'll be all right. I'll phone you in an hour. Oh, no. There was a warrant out for my arrest, a Class A deal that I'd been involved with. And, it wasn't looking good.
So they had give you a tug because of something that had happened in the UK?
The UK, yeah.
But they'd pinched you as you came back into the UK, and you just so happened to have 110k in cash in your car.
Well, they've obviously probably followed my social media and seen that I was a lunatic that was living a lifestyle of a 24-year-old.
So you're posting this online, like, so
Well,
it's literally the fucking reality TV show of.
Yeah, I'm a big drug dealer, like literally. You know what I mean? Like my brother and my family and whatnot. Like, are you for real? Like, you're 6'3", 18 stone, 20-odd-year-old that's living it up in a villa of X amount of thousands, and you're doing what you're doing on a daily basis. And yeah, rubbing salt into the wounds or rubbing people's noses in the faces. So when I came back, the old police were like, "Is he going to have drugs or money on him, or people, or something?"
But what was the like? So what was the like? I take it. I'm assuming that the UK police had something on you within the UK jurisdiction.
Yeah. Well, so the
because they're not like what you do in Spain is they would need to arrest you in Spain for that. They wouldn't.
Well, in hindsight, I never did anything in Spain. You know, I never committed any crimes in Spain. I've never done any wrong in Spain. But what they wanted me for in England was nothing to do with Spain. It was what I'd done in England.
And how did they find that
out? Yeah, someone essentially grasped on me, said something that led to some phones and cell sites. So a lot of criminals now that get sentenced and imprisoned, they think they're smart. So there was a thing called encros. So you have these phones, or like literally smartphones, iPhones, and you could talk blasé, drop me this off over here, kill this person. And it would never get caught. However, they got into the encros. People that didn't want to use encros, or this was before the days with encros, they'd have the basher phones, get a phone, £10 phone, do a few deals, get rid of it. Go home, new phone, do that. But what happened was, and lo and behold, to the guys that thought they were clever, it's cell-sighted. So every time you registered this phone number, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it just pinged a routine. So when
triangulates that you're within this location, there's these numbers.
You've had 10 numbers come out of this cell site that was to the, like, listen, they know where you are to the millimeter. If I was in next door room, you know, I'd be unconvicted. If I'm here, they know. So when you've got 25 phones within 2 months going, you look a bit dodgy. And on the back of that, if you've got X amount of money or X amount of X messages, and there's enough information there for the government to do you for conspiracy, which isn't really a thing. I mean, it's certainly not a thing in Ireland, which I've got a lot of friends and family over there. You know, you need to be caught with something real, like bang to rights. You need to be, you know, you get the smoking gun, so to speak. But in England, they can fabricate 3 or 4 things. I mean, I've been in jail with guys that have done a lot more. Even I've done a lot more with what they caught me with. But they'll try and typically get you on something or other, and you're away.
These Encro phones, was that the German phone that was encrypted? It was a German smartphone.
Yeah, I mean, what I knew of them, they were obviously an encrypted phone, server in Russia, call it what you will, all the conspiracy theories. So, yeah, I don't know where the server, I don't know where, I mean, it was, the phones are obviously just a standard Samsung or iPhone, but they were encrypted in such a way where you wouldn't get in the phone if you didn't have the password.
So it was it like an app, or how did it work? How did the
phone? You could I could open it up with a little cat on there on my Instagram. Could be like that. You think it was an normal iPhone, but you wouldn't know until you got into it that there were no iCloud or so on and so forth. There was just one app to get in it. So if you're in through security and you went like that with a phone, they wouldn't, you know, they'd have to ask how many people have you got an Encro, and to get a warrant of sorts.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know if you had it, basically. If you had a normal phone, you wouldn't know that you had an Encro.
And you were saying that the burner phones, they triangulated the cell sites so they would know that the number was registered to there. Like, did anybody click trying to reroute that, or was it a case of it was too little too late?
Well, obviously the microwaves and however it works is, you know, you get a phone, you put a SIM card in it, you do your business after a couple of weeks. Oh yeah, you're safe, so on and so forth. And then eventually, if you get caught, cell site where you was to the patterns back to the satellite, and then see that every 2-3 weeks you had a pattern of change in your number. So then when you did get caught with the crime that might be half a kilo of coke, but you've been doing the same routine for 2 years, changing your phone 24 times in 2 years, that it didn't look good for you, put it that way.
So how did they how did they stick it to you then if it was a conspiracy?
I got caught with the phone. It was a personal phone that I sent a message on that kind of, it was there in black and white, basically. I got caught with the phone, even though there were no messages. It was just a phone that I had that I never got rid of, that was, that I was the guy that had the number that related to, even though there were no, sorry, I'm just putting this Ring camera thing back on. So I was caught with the smoking gun, which was the number, but I never knew that the guy had been caught and whatnot. If I'd have, because I never run that little element of the business in the UK, or that element of work, I never knew that came on top, where they could have then told me, listen, this has come on top, so-and-so's been caught, you better sort your shit out, because then I'd have probably never come back anyway.
Mm-hmm. So what happens next then? So like they've got 110k in the car, right? They've got this phone off you. What happens next?
Well, I knew the holiday in Miami was looking grim.
What was the plan over? What was the plan over there?
Well, this girl that I met, I wouldn't say she was famous, but she was a model of sorts, as they all are. Yeah, just a bit of a holiday. She was a lot older than me, really. I was in my mid-20s. She was probably in her mid-30s. Reasonably good-looking woman. And I thought, yeah, let's have a little bit of America, really.
Like you're not going over there to expand the empire. You're not thinking, right, I'm going to open up in the Miami scene.
That's where the plot thickens, because obviously when shit hit the fan, I had to generate some money. So I did end up going over to Miami anyway.
Right, well, tell us what happened. Like, talk me through what happened.
So shit hit the fan in England. So I said, listen, shit hits the fan here. I've lost my wages. I had a bit of a float back home, my bank account. So I drained it all. They took my passport off me and said that you're going to have to go to court in 3 weeks. You've got a court hearing, or the next few days I got a court hearing. No passport. So me being me, went straight up to Newcastle. Right, need to think fast here, guys. What drugs can I import into Miami to make some money? Because I've got 30 grand here, which ain't going to last long when I'm on my toes. Because I don't want to go to jail in my late 20s, because I'm going to have no money when I come out. And I need to generate some money whilst I'm away. Drug dealing. Perfect. So we knew a lot what sold over there, which was very, very lucrative. Ketamine. Ketamine's massive over there. And back in England, we were buying it for 4 kilos a gram, which was £4. It was selling in bulk over there for $25,000. So
What was the big thing about ketamine?
Well, obviously they can get cocaine quite cheap because they're close to South America. Ketamine is quite a, I don't know really. If you go to Colombia, they won't sniff cocaine. It's even though it's 50 quid a gram here, 100 quid a gram here, in England. If you go to America, it's very, very frowned upon. They've got something that's called pink. Tusi is called. And that's what they all take over there, because cocaine, it's like heroin. In England, you don't take heroin in a pub. That's for the junkies.
Right.
But ketamine over there, it's a different high, or different low, so to speak. And it's quite hard to get hold of. It predominantly comes from India, or veterinary stuff. So if you're in an accident, you chop your leg off, sometimes they might not give you morphine or whatever they give you. They'll give you something called ketamine. And it sends you in an absolute crazy sort of mushroomy, acidy sort of trip if you take an amount of it. So, getting something from India via England and potentially making tens of thousands of dollars on it, was what I was able to do at the time.
How are you getting to Miami with no passport?
So what I did is I got the same day passport, so I had to think on my toes. I've got.
Did that work?
Got my. Oh, did it work? Yeah, the judge didn't like that when he caught me on my way back, but he gave me kudos for doing it. So had to think. Listen, can't get my passport because they've got it. If I go and get my passport, I'm gonna get remanded. But I thought, really? Are they going to be that tricky where they think that I'm going to go and get my same day passport? So the next day, sorry guys, just come back from England, Ibiza, shit's hit the fan. I'm going on my toes, don't know how long, but I'm going to go and get my passport, and this is my plan. Oh, you're an idiot. I said, right, no problem. Goes to Newcastle. Hello, sorry, I lost my passport. I've got to go back to Spain. I've got some security work. Oh, yeah, we can just see you just come back from there, no problem. Lovely. Waited around, got my photos. Thank you very much. Cheers. Next day, my mate dropped me off to London Heathrow, straight to Miami.
So there was no system flagging in the passport office, and there was no system flagging on the flights.
Nah, and when I got to the other side, I was a big lad, not too dissimilar from this, but lean and slightly bulkier. Big old Yank cop stopped me. What are you doing here? I thought, oh shit, he's got me. So I thought, I got to think off cuff here. I said, well, why wouldn't I be here? I'm British, I'm single, and I'm good looking, and that sort of charisma. And he was like, oh, yeah, welcome to Miami. And that was it then. She was waiting outside, jumped in the car and off.
Like, and does she know what you're up to? Like, is she sort of like a bit?
Yeah, so what happened was we had some merchandise. So I organised this merchandise that was not very expensive. She had these guys in New York, total opposite ends of the country, but they were the guys that would buy it for that sort of money. So when the first package landed, sort of give them the heads up and said, right, listen, what we're going to do here. Oh, well, we'll buy it, but we've got to get it up here. I said, well, I'm in Miami. That's not possible. Well, unfortunately, that's where it ends. I said, right, no worries. I'll see you in 2 days. And then we hired a big car and then drove into New York with the package and did a drug deal.
How big's the package? Like what size is the ketamine at this point? Like how? Like is it in a lipstick holder? Is it a fucking 2-litre bottle of juice? Like.
No, it was. I mean, in weight, it was I don't know, around about 1.5 kilos.
Kilo, and what is it? Liquid? Is it powder? Or?
No, it was in protein tubs.
So it's in protein tubs, but is it in liquid form or is it in a powder form?
No, you don't need to do all that. So all load of bullshit. All them guys that say they're melting coke down and bring it into doors and cameras and.
No, I don't know. Like I don't know what ketamine. Like what would ketamine be in? Would it be?
One of the best ways. So what happened was. You got to be careful what you say on here, aren't you? Because, this is layman's terms. This isn't actually fact that I was bringing in 1.5. I might have brought in 10.5 or 0.5. But what I'm saying is, I had a guy that had a supplement business, and he said, I'm glad to sponsor you on your adventures over in America. There's some protein, creatine, glutamine, amino acids, blah, 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 blah. So I had this 200, 300 quid worth of supplements brought out, and in one of them wasn't creatine, it was something else, and in the glutamine, it was half of the other thing that was supposed to be something else.
Right. But it's just as simple as posting it over.
Just as simple as that. I'm not saying that you can do that from Colombia, but who's importing ketamine into England and not selling it in England and selling it into America? I bet there's not many people that have done what I've done. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I just knew that laws. I was there when UPS is bringing it. I could see where it's getting all tracked. You go out for a little coffee, you're floating around the building and whatnot, and then next minute you walk in and you're away. I'm not saying that you get away with it 25 times. You don't need to get away with them 25 times. You get half a dozen parcels in like that. So every other week, we'd send a parcel, another, but it would get them backed up. A bit like a chicken. A chicken lays an eggs every 28 hours. There's 7 or 8 eggs within it, of a smaller statue. So this was like a conveyor belt.
And what are you like? Are you posting it to the same address? Are you sort of taking it to different addresses, different names? Like how? Like,
Every other rotating.
And what's the situation in terms of how would you transfer money back to the UK? Are you posting it out? Is it like, do you need to get it into the banking system? Like
Western Union.
So what does that, like, what do they do? Is that sort of the one where you pay cash at that side and they'll pay it out at the other side?
If I was so like now, obviously all your crypto boys do it. So if someone's got cash and someone's in Thailand and they can make a crypto transaction happen, we can do it.
Yeah.
Back then, you had to go to the Western Union or know someone at the Western Union that could turn a blind eye and hope that they get triggered that you sent too much money. But bearing in mind, the majority of the money was profit. I only needed to send over $6,000 or $7,000 every other week. So by the time I get a parcel, another 2 weeks, it was backed up. So it wasn't millions of transfers. 3-4 transfers a month at the tops.
Yeah.
Majority of the money I was keeping. It wasn't like I was having to send it 90% back and keeping 10%. I was keeping 90% and sending 10% back to reload.
And what do you like? So what's the plan in Miami, right? So you've got this set up. Like is you can't go back to the UK?
Oh no, I completely went off the rails. Yeah.
What?
This was absolute nightmare. This was I was on that much growth hormone, steroids. This was like, Miami was like what I know Dubai is now, but I was in my mid-20s. I was still mid-20s by this point, taking all these steroids. I was taking grams and grams and grams of stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I was massive. I'll send you some photos. Wealthy, not a bad-looking lad, and I was living the life. It was extraordinary, frightening. Really, when I look back at it, it was frightening.
Like, but what's going on in your head at this point? Because like your fucking UK is like, you're red hot in the UK. You're getting this stuff sent over. You're ducking and diving. You've left Spain. You're in Miami. Well, right, you're absolutely juiced to the eyeballs. Like, Like, are you back on the stuff? Are you taking the merch?
Oh yeah, they always say don't get high on your own supply. That's just ridiculous, isn't it? The good thing was when you had that. So where things started slipping was I needed some steroids. So I speak to the steroids were quite expensive over in Miami back then, and growth hormone was quite cheap. I used to take a lot of growth hormone and probably only about 5 or 6 mil a test, which back then, didn't seem a lot, but now that's frightening. That's a pro stack.
Yeah.
And probably some more. That's just test, and then you've got your Deca and your Boldenone or Masteron or whatever.
You must have been fucking huge.
Yeah, for a 20-odd-year-old, I was quite big, and then you have your orals, and then you have your insulin. The insulin was the one that really got you full. But then from there, what happened was you go on a night out, you speak to your guy. Hi mate, can you drop me some of this off? Oh, you're the one with the Kezel, right? Okay, yeah. Well, I'll swap you that. So then you had this commodity, which I'm not saying it was like Bitcoin, but you had this thing that had value that cost me £4 a gram. That now was £40 a gram, that was 40, which was nothing, £40, to now £400 or $400. And now I was really being tricky, swapping my growth hormone for this. I was swapping my Kezel for growth hormone. I'd swap Kezel for cocaine. And it got that bad towards the back end without sort of jumping the gun. I didn't have enough money for my own flight back home. My brother had to get it. My brother had to get me a flight. I phoned my brother up in tears that it was all a fucking a rock and roll lifestyle that I was either going to end up dead in American jail for 25 years, or what happened.
So let me get this right. So you're getting the Kezo dropped off. You're getting that sent over, and rather than turning a profit with it and selling it, you're trading it for stuff that you're consuming.
Oh, no. I was 90%, but you always skim a little bit off the top, don't you? Let's have it right. So if I'm selling, 1.5 kilos, I'm selling 1.4, and I'm having a little bit for myself.
Yeah. So, but what you're saying is that it looks like you're burning through cash because you're talking about trading this. Like, is it the small bit that you're keeping?
Yeah, would sell.
Yep.
So I would be 90. I'd be 90% profit.
Yep.
Minus the little 2 or 3% I took for myself. So I'd be down to 87% profit. But there was that much money involved. I was spending it. I mean, we'd stay in a hotel over the road from our apartment. So the apartment that she had, that she was paying, that I was paying for, we'd stay in a hotel for 3 nights, which was $1,000. And I used to open the balcony, not been to sleep for 2 days, and I used to see the apartment that was costing me $2,000 and the hotel that was spent. So that's how it got. You would just spend it. The rock and roll lifestyle.
Yep.
I mean, you can see why people end up dead. So, but then I was skimming off the top as well. So I keep a bit for myself. Have a few scoops on the night, a few scoops in the morning, a few scoops at gym, a few scoops afterwards, a few scoops before tea.
Is this of ketamine?
Well, whatever it was at the time. So meth was quite good at the time.
What were you taking? Meth?
Yeah, that meth. Yeah, meth.
And what's that like?
That's a whole new dimension. At first, it didn't really do much. You was a bit like...
I can't imagine somebody with that much testosterone in them giving them meth and then sending them to the gym.
No, it wasn't taking it go to the gym. It's a lifestyle thing. So I used to take a lot of Valium back then. So you have these mad days. I mean, listen, I used to have it off in the beef. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I was a businessman and I was a priest. I used to party. I used to party hard. I mean, even when I go to the gym now, I train harder than most. I'm bigger than most. I'm stronger than most. And in my mid-20s, there's not many people, certainly in and around my town. One of them called me a dad bod about 10 years ago. And someone said, well, listen, he used to be in shape, this kid. And I thought, well, yeah, you train for 3 weeks and then you're on your gear and you pump up. And listen, the car lace my boots. And I'm not being a big un. And party-wise, I've done it before. I've done it here, even only a few weeks ago, few months ago. I've been here for 7-8 months. So, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm a lunatic at the best of times. And Miami was no exception. You go to Miami when you're in your mid-20s and you've got a decent amount of cash flow, and you're partying and you're doing what you're doing. It's... You've got to be mentally strong to sort of manage all of that. Manage the business, manage the party life, manage the women.
And was it just complete chaos? Like it sounds like carnage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit. Yeah, it is, because you're of that level where my mate went to watch Manchester City, and he's a Manchester City. He's got Manchester City tattoos all over him. And he was in a box, and one of his friends said, he could never afford a box. He said, I've got you in a box. Noel Gallagher or Liam Gallagher was in there, and they had a little rendezvous. And he said it was mind blowing in the box for watching the game. So you get these normal Joes like myself that then start rubbing with celebrities, a bit like the craze with Peggy out of EastEnders and things like that. There comes a sort of interlinked normality of criminality where it's that organised and that serious, where people are like, oh, it's all right, he's only a drug dealer, or he's only an importer, or he's only doing this, or he's one of the boys. You've seen it, footballers, this, that, film star, rock stars, they go off the rails and they end up being, I've just seen something now, Danny Drinkwater, ex-Premiership footballer. You have all these millions and that, and then you end up with nothing. Mm-hmm. In fact, they probably owing money out. I think Katie Price, okay, she's a lunatic, not my cup of tea, but she's had millions go through her hands, where if she'd have put a few million to work, she's not been well managed. I'm not saying she has to manage her own money, because that's a phenomenal amount of wealth. But me back then, young 25-year-old, young gun, could have most birds, could have a good laugh, could go partying, had a few quid. What can't you do? You think, you got the world at your feet, really.
So what was it? What was the downfall?
Criminality, really. It doesn't last, does it? I think if I'd have had various businesses. So when I was younger and I had, one or two little businesses, or I was working for a company, I was selling cars on the side and doing the other stuff, your 500 quid doesn't sound a lot. But when you've also got a little side business of earning 200-300 quid because you're in your 20s, and you've got a little something else selling a few cars, that 500 and that 700 and that 300 ends up being £1,000 a week. So it wasn't the £500 that was lucrative in my 20s. It was my other little fingers in pies, or the 3 businesses, or the 3 incomes. But back then it was unsustainable, really. It was either the import was going to get caught, or my heart or spleen was going to give up. So that rock and roll lifestyle, whilst it's fun, it's somewhat short-lived. Whilst obviously the proper fellas that are doing it, that are laying on the beach in Miami or Dubai, they aren't the ones that are doing what I'm doing, giving it the big and trying to act clever. And that's what I was doing. I was a young lad. It was too young, really. And a few people had seen what I was doing. Even my elders and my friends of friends. Once you ended up going to Ibiza, once you ended up going to Europe or going to Amsterdam or going to Belgium and doing various things, and then going over to Miami, it was a bit like, this is getting a little bit messy. This. Not in too deep. Yeah, not in too deep as such. Well, I suppose I was in too deep, but it was my own doing. I wasn't working for no one. It wasn't like I had an elder on me that was doing this, that, and the other. And I've always over-egged the pudding. My ex-missus used to say that you've got Asperger's because everything you do is just too much.
So you were in. So what? How did the downfall in Miami? Because I mean, the worst thing in the world at this point, with what you've described, is fly back to the UK. So what happened in Miami?
That got to be that got to be home, really. I wouldn't say homesick, but if you wake up in the morning, you have champagne and lobster every day, you soon get bored of it. You go on with a beautiful woman every day. I'm not saying that I do or don't. You get bored of it. You end up wanting a fatty, or you want a burger, or do you understand? And that's where it was. It was like this is like, I don't know. Name some lunatic out there that you'd like to party with, but you couldn't do it. What's that guy? Charlie. Oh, what's he called? That lunatic from that program. Charlie something or other. I can't remember his bloody name now. That lunatic that's been caught. He's always partying and Charlie Sheen.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Sheen. You know Charlie Sheen?
Yeah.
You might be up Charlie Sheen and having, cocaine and 10 out of 10 women all day, champagne. You get bored of it. You just want to go skiing, or you want a fat burger, or you want an older woman to cuddle you to sleep. So back then it was all too much, too good. And I needed to bring back, it was not normal life, is it? Let's have it. I mean, it's a bit like coming here, really. It's not normal life, but I'm not committing any crimes, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I bring people along the journey. And that's even wrong. I've called Belter Trades out all month, and it's still wrong. So just getting away from that criminality, knowing my worth.
Were you feeling the pressure?
Yeah, I was, really, because by then, I prided myself on selling, making 90% profit. And I think it got to a stage where I was owing people money, and I was spending money before things was coming in, and not managing things properly, and not being as professional as I was when I was in Ibiza. And I wouldn't say that I was a junkie. But yeah, I think Miami is a bit of a devil's playground.
So what it sounds like was happening is that you got complacent initially with the phone, somebody ratted you in. That has sent you to find an escape And what you've got is you've got a massive increase in pressure because home is now off limits. You're wanted. So you're over here in Miami escaping. But you're not just escaping in location, you're escaping away from the feelings of the doubt and the feelings of the what ifs and the what holds it next and the noose is tightening around your neck. But you need to make a few quid, so you're still doing the things that would tighten that noose. And you're now also doing it in another country. So you're going out the frying pan into the fire, and then with that you're also now young. You're full of gear. You're full of testosterone. You're like, well, let me just enjoy this because I don't know when it'll end, and it seems to be it's more likely to come to an end because the noose is tightening, and that pressure's built up and up and up. And as you've went full YOLO mode, eventually the wheels have came off where you've went shit. And that started from being pretty dialed in to then just having, a total sort of wheels come off your wagon. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think about if I knew I could have come home and seen my dad, like my dad has brought me up all my life and been very close to me. Like now, if I want to go home, I can see my dad. I'm trying to get him to Dubai with my brother. I said, I'll meet you in Dubai or I'll come back. But for me to go all the way to England to spend 24 hours to get my dad when my brother could take him into Dubai makes more sense. And I think when you can't do something, i.e. travel and go back home, don't forget I was quite young and it all happened quite, quickly. The wealth, the money, the rock and roll lifestyle. You'd kind of gone to the top, which I'm not saying I've gone to the top in terms of monetary aspect or the monetary side of things, but I had it good then, and it was just a case of managing it yourself, which I wasn't doing very well, probably taking too much gear, and it kind of probably wasn't a business as such. I wasn't.
You were doing everything to excess. I mean, it was everything you were doing. You were just way over the top.
Because I've never really told this story into much depth like this, but then. The type of guy that I am, you wear a heart on your sleeve and you a spade's a spade. I suppose, looking back then, I didn't, because it was because there was so much money involved with the importation. A bit like Pablo Escobar, which I'm not saying I'm anything like him. It cost him probably $1,000. He was earning and selling it for $30,000 in Miami, and he was doing tons and tons and tons every other day. That's why I ended up one of the richest, I think probably the richest man in the world back then.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was nothing like that. But when you're doing any business and you're earning 90% profit and you're doing tens of thousands of pounds, I mean, they're decent numbers.
Mm-hmm. So what, like you said that you went on, the wheels are coming off, your own people money, you're about as far away from where you were in terms of the business side of things, where you started to where you ended up in Miami. You went through the full spectrum, and you've came to the point where it sounds like you're in total despair, because at some point you've got to pay the piper, right? You're doing this party and you're living this life, you're trading people the commodity that you've got for bits and pieces and all this sort of stuff. You've got this thing that people want, you probably feel that this is great, it's adding to that, escaping reality. You're like, I'm taking a bit myself, I'm getting into this lifestyle, and it's just the balloon's got to pop, because you're building up all this pressure, and at some point it's got to release. You said there you had to phone your brother. What was that like? What happened then?
So basically, it got to the stage where these guys wanted more and more and more and more. So they'd say, right, we'll buy whatever you've got, we'll give you more money for the next one. So that's when I was kind of, shit, I'm getting paid before the fucking merchandise has come. It's a bit like when people grow weed. Typically what people will do is when it's coming off, they'll say, I've got X amount of plants, it'll be ready in a week, you might get a deposit. So then when it is cut down and grown, which takes days and days and days, that parcel or that grow that's getting cut down, it's yours. Hi, Gio, I've got £1 billion worth of weed ready in a week. You'd say, right, I'll give you a deposit. It's mine, job's done, golden handshake, that's it. This was kind of very, very similar because they were earning the mega money because they were selling it on the street and in the bits. So I was like, they were like, who the hell is this guy? You know, he's a big old guy. He's not a liar. He's getting the stuff and giving me deposits. So naturally, you spend what you spend. And then you're like, oh, well, I've got this stuff. So I send that back home and I've got a bit on the top. And that's where it started getting messy, where if I'd have kept it small and thought, right, get 10 parcels over, double my money, jobs are good, and go back, go to jail, come out to a little bit of money. I'm not going to pay my pocket. I'm not going to pay my proceeds of crime. Start off afresh with a nice little leg up in my early 30s. That's what I should have done, but I escalated it. So then when I phoned my brother up, where my head went, I was like, listen, enough's enough. Come on, get yourself home, go to jail, you'll get arrested, no problem. Miami to London Heathrow, they come and got me on the plane. The judge has only gone and said, right, we're not going to remand you, we're going to bail you. And this is gospel truth, and all the people in York know this. I've only gone and done it again.
What do you mean?
So so when I got caught in London Heathrow, they've arrested me on the tarmac, come down like this, gone to Plymouth, and it was only because of the I think it was only because of the timings. I've gone into so they've arrested me. I've gone into Plymouth Crown Court. Said to the judge, listen, I don't know what's going on with all this because I've never had a solicitor because I've never been arrested. I've never gone to court to prove my innocence regarding the first crime. I said, listen, I don't understand what's going on. I said, just give me a fine, I'm off. He went, it's more severe than that, Robert. You're in a lot of trouble. I said, well, I don't know what's going on with all this. I said, all this court daring, told me the solicitor, plead guilty, give me a fine. He said, no. Listen, we're going to have to let you go. You're going to have to speak to your solicitor today or tomorrow and get on top of this. I said, right, no bother, lovely, I'll see you later. Straight back to Newcastle, same day passport. Phoned my mate straight to Marbella. April. I can't remember what year it was, and I've done it again. And I swear on my father's life, that's what I did. I said, right then, no bother. So I phoned all my mates up in Europe. I said, right guys, I'm landing. I've got a few quid in my back pocket. I need to get to work. And they went, don't worry. Get yourself over here. Meet me down Port of Banús. Come on. Strut down Port of Banús. Give me the big one. Right, let's have it off. So this was 2000, and it was when Tim Edmund won Wimbledon. Tim Edmund? No, Andy Murray. Sorry, Andy Murray. Because I'd started off in Marbella and some shit hit the fan in Marbella. Police all around us and whatnot. So I'd scurried off to Ibiza. The year or 2 years before I was at, the following year, all my mates are back over there. Oh, you're back for another season? I said, I've had a fucking right nightmare. I've been over in Miami, nearly got caught. Came back to England, nearly got remanded. They've only given me a same-day passport, gone to mainland Spain, done a few things there, shit's hit the fan, and then I've gone over to Ibiza, and I've only gone and done it all again.
So what happened in Spain? What was the deal there? That was serious stuff, just moving stuff around. A lot of colos over there, a lot of firms over there, a lot of weight over there. I mean, I don't want to be cheesy, but the business, not too dissimilar from that. Yeah. Business, the business of the movie.
And it is. Listen, it is. You've got a Marbella, or if you did a podcast over there with a few people, or you probably wouldn't be able to do a podcast, but you start scratching the surface out there. Because what happens is this is how all the stuff comes in Europe. So what happens is all the stuff comes back from. All the stuff gets shipped in from South America into Spain, South Spain, right? Or even North Spain. And this is what happens. Because it's all corrupt and whatnot, how many kilos do you get caught here on the news? All these kilos and kilos of coke, tons of it that's getting shipped in on a daily, weekly basis. How many do we hear that gets caught? Very, very, very seldom, rarely, once or twice a year. What happens is the old police, naval police, or whatever it is, sea police, go out to see him in the middle of the sea, do a little transaction, that shipment comes and it's all out to happen. And that's gospel. Yeah. So it comes in, it gets all organised, and then it's all shipped. It's just like a product. You get an iPhone, they all come from Taiwan to here, boom. It's just, It's that. I mean, even if you're not involved with the narcotic scene, someone could make a phone call now. I mean, in Thailand, it's forbidden. I could make a call of a call of a call and get some now. If I went to Dubai, I could get some. If I went to North Korea, South Korea, I could get something. So it's not that difficult when you know the right people.
So what was your headspace like? Because I mean, I'm trying to think of I'm putting myself in your shoes, right? The pressure's got too much, right? You're like, I just need to get back home and I'll face the music, because I'm literally, if I stay here, I'm going to be falling apart. I'm either going to be incarcerated in America or dead, right? Because it seems like you've went into that environment and you're just going balls to the walls. So you then come back, you go to face the music, you then think better of it, and you think, I'm just going to do the same again, and then you're right back into the frying pan. So where's your head at with all this?
The Dow's just rolling 350 points. Where, Miami or back in Spain doing it a second time?
Well, I'm thinking about like your headspace, because what's happened is you've went Miami in to the court, then done the same thing to jump out the UK. You've went to Spain, and then you've went from Spain to Ibiza. You're just out the frying pan and out the fire.
Well, the thing is, when you're in the underworld, you're not thinking like a normal civilian, are you? You're in the underworld where you know people that are in Dubai or Spain or Tenerife or Thailand or South America. And if you plot up somewhere and you know people, you know you're able to feed yourself and so on and so forth. So when you're in England and you're paying your bills through criminality, but you're able to do that overseas, it's not really a big issue.
No, I don't mean that. What I mean is that the purpose of you coming back to Miami is that you were falling apart. It was your head. You weren't in the right headspace. It was all getting too much, and you thought, I'll come back, I'll bring the money back, and I'll get back to the UK. I'll serve my time, and I'll get this over and done with. But instead of doing that, you fucking jump ship.
And that was fine. That was the plan. And then when the judge said, "Right, we're going to let you out and get yourself," because I manipulated. Well, I wouldn't say manipulated the judge, but when I was in prison, I was doing various levels of bringing phones in and stuff like that. So I knew what to say to this judge, and I knew he ain't going to send me to jail. He ain't going to remand me. So if I say I don't know what's going on, just give me the fine. He was like, no. And he knew. He didn't know what I knew, but the minute he said, right, we're going to have to let you home and you've got to get yourself sorted, he was giving me a chance. But I didn't need a chance. He should have sent me to jail. That was the right thing to do. And in my heart of hearts, I wish he had done. However, when he didn't and I got out and I saw the freedom and I smelt the coffee, or what I thought was the coffee, and I thought, I'm free. I ain't going to jail. So go back to Newcastle. No problem. I've got my passport again. By this point, it was that good. It's that good a story. You don't want me to go to jail. I didn't want myself to go to jail because I was in a position where I'd made one or two messages, and by the time I'd gone from Plymouth back to Newcastle within 24 hours, I knew I was getting back to work in Spain and then flopped over to Ibiza. Who would want to go to jail?
And what were you hoping? Were you hoping that you would just get back in rhythm again? Because you were chaos in Miami.
There's no hope. And it's like me going to a gym in Australia or going to a gym in Norway. I go to a gym and I make it work. That's what I do. And this was just like a normal day's work. Go back to Spain.
But that's not what you did in Miami, though. In Miami, you fucking let your wheels come off. So isn't that? It's the fact that what made you come back from Miami is the fucking wheels were coming off.
That mess in like smoking or sniffing a little bit of cocaine. Do you know what I mean? On a Friday night after a hard day's work, when you're on that tackle for days on end. Listen, and you're massive. Bearing in mind, I was massive as well, and it was just normal to get up and do a bit of this, go to sleep and take 10 Valium, wake up and have half a bottle of wine. Listen, it sounds funny, but then when things happened and I was able to sort of, I suppose, detoxicate myself, and then thought, right, let's do this the proper way now, round two.
Right, so you're, let me see if I've got your thinking pattern right. Because as I said, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. right? So you're juiced to the gills. You're in Miami. You've escaped by the skin of your teeth. You get back. You see it's divine intervention that the judge hasn't sent you to jail, and you're like, "This is my opportunity, Bolt. I'm going to go back to where I made it work. So I know that I can make it work there, and I've not been jailed. So this is a good move." So you head back to Spain. Look, you're like, "Whoa, it's bit tasty here. I'm going to get out of Dodge. I'm going to go back to Ibiza."
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
I can understand why you're thinking this. Like, I'm putting myself in your shoes, and I see that your perspective is this seems like a good idea.
The problem wasn't Ibiza or the police. The problem was Miami.
I gathered that.
So I was all right being a drug dealer. It was just the police. And I was all right being a drug dealer without taking the drugs.
Yeah.
The problem was Miami and that meths, because I've never had that before. And I'm not saying I ended up being a meth head or whatever you want to call it, but then that leads on to not going to the gym as much, or maybe taking a bit more.
Right. So I didn't twig there. So you've added the meth into the mix, and that's really when you've started to go fucking sideways.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the cocaine and the women and the this and the that and everything was the same. Like it was a Ibiza, but I think the catalyst between the comparing the both wasn't the money or the issue, or because I had it good. Listen, I had it good in Ibiza and I had it good in Miami.
There's two things that were different in Miami from what you've said. The two things were when you were in Miami, you had you weren't allowed to go home. Like so, you before when you were in Ibiza, you thought you could go home, right? So the mentality shift has changed. Your mindset is now I can't go back. You can't see your dad. You can't see these things. So you probably when you have that, it doesn't make you feel good. And when you don't feel good, you need to take an action. And your action has been escape, right? So you were used to drugs, you were used to coke, you were used to the drink, you were used to the ladies, but you're now needing more escape because there's more pressure because the home is actually being removed. Like something's been taken out of your life and you want to escape that. And your vehicle of escape was, you probably were a bit myopic, you were a bit short-sighted because you're like, look, I'm Billy Big Balls. I can do coke, I can do gear, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing gear, I'm massive, I'm big, I've got women, I've got money, everybody wants what I've got, I'm the big fucking swinging dick, I'm the big ticket in town, so why the fuck can't I do meth? Because I feel shit because I can't go home, so why not? And then that's just been the straw that's broken camel's back.
Well, yeah, you just normalise it, don't you? You normalise, you know, instead of going business class, you go first class if you can't really afford it. You know, instead of having 5 beers, you have 5 beers and 10 shots, which is shots that tipped you over the edge. So meth wasn't like heroin. Like for me, heroin's, oh shit, that's the one. Like stay away. And I'm not saying that, you know, meth is really I think I was homesick, bit young, spending too much. The girl that I had, she wasn't really supportive at the time. She was a lot older. She probably thought, fucking hell, this guy's a lunatic. So on and so forth. Yeah, it was just, yeah, I always say that Miami's the devil's. I'd never go back to Miami. I didn't like it at the time. I didn't like it. I didn't like America, really. I mean, sorry for the viewers that are...
well, I mean, there'll be an element of your mindset there. You were pushed there. I mean, you didn't go to Miami because you were like, I've picked this. You were pushed to Miami because when you arrived in the UK, you were like, shit, I need to go somewhere, and I've got this opportunity. But you're going there with the precondition that you are needing to escape. So you've been shoved there essentially in your mind. It's not been a free choice like you would have done before, and that'll play a part in the psychology of it.
I think the only way, I mean, this is how I ended up coming back to England the second time, is because the laws or the regulations are, if I'd have flown from Spain to England, as they got me again, quite obviously, you fly to Dublin, because they don't really speak to each other, Ireland and England, and then you land there, and then you go to the North Ireland, northern border, and use your driving license to go over to your neck of the woods, Can Ryan, and then jump on a bus and get yourself somewhere in the middle of England. That was relieving. I didn't mind doing that because I knew if I got caught, what we're going to do, get caught. I mean, they sent me to the block in jail for 6 months. I only did 2.5 behind the door. I got a 5-year sentence. So I was kind of relieved, really, that I might get caught because it took the pressure off. And that's just how I justified travelling. And then when I did that little route, I kind of got another one up on, I don't know, it's not society, but
establishment.
The establishment. Yeah, that's a good word.
Did you like the chase? Was there a bit of you that enjoyed that?
Yeah, they didn't know where I was, so I was chasing myself. Really, I knew that it was very, very slim. And then when I did get caught again, jumping the gun, this is when shit hit the fan because when I was in jail, I met this Albanian firm, real heavy. Like you are talking, the guys, the million. Anyway, they wanted me to do a little job for them over in Greece. So it says 10 grand there. We need you to see someone, give them a phone, blah, blah, blah. So got out of jail, got these numbers. They'd had phones in there on FaceTime, this little firm, heavy firm. Yeah, all right, mate, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah. Come on out, we'll send you that money. Didn't think now of it. 10 minutes later, money's in my bank account. Barclays Bank and all. Peterborough Jail helped me get the bank account in prison. So when you go to Peterborough Jail, they help you with like bank accounts and weird stuff. So I had this bank account. I thought, well, I did used to send little bits of money in there and stuff like that. So they sent me this money, and it was just ironic that was the first bit of serious money that had passed my hands. It was through a bank account that Peterborough Jail helped me with. Nevertheless, I'd gone to bloody Greece, Athens it was, and done this little bit of work. And when I come back, they started quizzing me. Bloody, because I'd gone from England to Northern Ireland back, because I knew that route worked when I did it, when I was on my toes. Anyway, they started bloody quizzing me, didn't they?
Who?
Oh,
the bank?
Customs. My mate, Customs, because they caught me once. They caught me, obviously, when I came from England, Spain to England, got caught with that money, gone to jail. They'll probably run me credentials for whatever reason. I thought, ooh, this is a bit tasty. Start asking him a few questions. And, they said, oh, you're on license, which meant that I couldn't travel. I'd only been out of jail bloody 2 or 3 weeks, if not 2 or 3 days. But anyway, 2 or 3 weeks, I've scurried off to, I swear I've had some work on. Legitimate work. I buy and sell cars, which I was doing. That's when I came out of jail. My brother gave me my first car, so on and so forth. So I've scurried off, fucking giving it the big, because I've got a little sneaky payday, get rich quick scheme. And not as I did fucking much wrong, really. But anyway, that was that. And they said, well, we're going to have to phone your probation officer. I said, well, phone him. Phone him in York. No problem. No, there's no problems. Anyway, they came back and said, oh, everything's okay, see you later. So I thought, fuck it, otherwise I'd have got remanded for the rest of me 2.5 years. So I'd done 5 behind the door.
So what was your sentence? You got done for 5 years for the initial crime when you came back from Spain.
Yeah, supply Class A, importation of Class B. So the Audi that I had that we took over to a beefer, when I came back with the money, there'd been remnants of bloody, pills and bags and stuff like that. So there was like a couple of empty baggies that I didn't even know. And they done me for importation. So if you Google my name, or I'll send you the link, they tried doing me for importation. So as they do, the establishment try and make you all that much more serious than I actually was. Oh, I'm.
Yeah. And what was the deal? Like, you said that they gave you a payday, so you go to Athens, you're taking a phone to them, and they're just transferring you the money.
Yeah.
The fuck was in the phone?
It was the Encro phones.
Ah, right. So they need somebody that can go over. Yeah, I get it. And what?
How could they get them up?
And what was your deal then? So you get the customs guys give you a tug, You're like, look, phone them. Like, what are you thinking at this point? Like, what's your
Well, I'm
plan
going to
from here?
they'll send me back, obviously arrested on a plane, or I don't know how they would have got me back. Probably on the back of a plane, and they had to juggle the flight, wouldn't they? Put me on a bloody EasyJet flight in cuffs, and then sent me over. But the thing is, obviously the Irish don't necessarily like the English. So I was very, very surprised that the customs bent over backwards to call my probation officer, which is quite clear and obvious now that they never did do. They just tried making me sweat. So the, nice strict face that I had, like, yeah, call them, no problems. They wanted to go in my laptop. I had a laptop at the time, go through all the laptops, see that I was doing business, and everything did stack up. So they probably just thought, we'll make him sweat and we'll go back. They probably thought that we know full well they shouldn't be traveling, but anyway, if you can get travel, some people used to get passes to travel. So if you had business abroad, or you was a banker and that's where your business was, or you're an estate agent, and you could prove that you were making money by doing that.
Yeah,
they couldn't really stop you. I mean, they could do, but.
So what was your plan from here on in? Like, the Albanians will give you 10K. Like, you thinking this is a good number? I'll get into this.
No, that was about it really. Where, the old phone calls used to go, "Oh, Robbie, you're coming over here, or you're doing this, or you're getting back into it," and that was it really. I turned 30 June, and I went to jail in 2014 of August 2014. It was.
Like, so what was your plan when you came? Were you just like you've known this for a good few years of your life. So, like, what are you planning on doing?
The car game, which I did do for 2014 up until the year before I come out here. I did that for 9 years.
Mm-hmm. And what was that like in terms of a change of lifestyle?
It were good, It were really good, and it were good to me because I had my brother, and I had one or two good contacts. I used to get good cars off. Did it all properly, warranties. Listen, they were the cheaper end of the scale. It wasn't very glamorous by any stretch, but there were good money in it. I was working with my dad.
What are your family saying to this point? Because, I mean, do they know the extent of what you were up to? Like, are they going, fucking, how long is it going to last here?
This is when I'm straight. This is when I come out of jail.
Yeah, but what I mean is like, it's fine that you came out of jail and all that sort of stuff, but the reality is, all you've known for a great number of years of your life is this, tricky lifestyle. You're getting after it. You're going out there and you're in the underworld. You're ducking and diving. You're getting same day passports. You're flying here, there, and everywhere. Hotels and drugs and.
I overextended it. So whilst I thought highly of my brother because he'd been a great help, my sister as well, she was sending me the books in for day trading. So when I was in jail, the pad mate that I had introduced me to day trading, which I thought was all a scam. You buy something, it's leverage, it's all risky. You buy something one day, you sell it in an hour. How can that happen? So then I had my sister, which she's a professional as well. She helped me sort of be straight, really. And like I was speaking to her not so long ago, she helped me being out here, really. She was, without her sending me the books and my mate introducing me to day trading or investing when I was in jail or finance, I substituted the drug game for day trading, essentially. Day trading alone. Like, investing wasn't really. Listen, me and you have struggled to earn a lot of money through investing with your traditional sort of equity route at the moment, because you'd need a lot of money, like your Warren Buffetts and whatnot that have got billions, where they only need to put billions into something and it move 1% or 2 a day, and they're laughing. We don't have billions. That's why we use leverage. What's leverage? Well, they magnify your money. You put in 1,000, they might give you 10 times exposure, so on and so forth. So my sister helped me transition when I was a criminal and when I came out of prison. I'd done one or two grey area things, but I wasn't a criminal, really. I knew in my heart of hearts, like now, I'm not a criminal.
What's a grey area thing?
Well, taking a phone over to Greece, or maybe not paying a bounce back loan back, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. It's nothing too dramatic.
Well, it is when you got 2 bounce back loans. It was 100,000.
What did you do with the loan?
I invested it into the stock market during the bull run.
Yep. Did you send a thank you card to Boris and Sunak?
No, I told Matt Hancock he did well to resign. I thought he did proud of the affair. I mean, not proud that he had an affair, but I'm proud that he resigned on the back of the affair.
Yeah. I think that's the least these concerns was an affair.
Listen, they're all rats. You think Rishi Sunak and his missus that are worth billions, like he said that he's got normal friends that are not quite working class, but you think they give a rat's ass about us or the powers that may be? I mean, a bit like Andrew Tate, which I know a lot of people don't like him. He said one thing about the King of Dubai. How well he's loved. And he is, isn't he? If you meet someone like Ronaldo or Messi, they're amazing footballers. You meet that guy, Kamzat, like I did today. I was like, hey, mate, I'm not much of a phone guy. Yeah, come on, mate. Bosh. And you look at his fights and he's an animal. The King of Dubai is an absolute behemoth of a man. That's how you can measure a man in something that he's done. And it's amazing, but yet our king or MP would go down the street because he'd get shot. I mean, I know obviously Trump did, but anyway, another conspiracy theory. But our local MP can't walk down the street with them stopping the street from one side to another because they know that they're not loved, they're not appreciated, they're not welcome. What they're doing for society.
I know. It is madness. It is complete madness. So what's I think we covered off what you were up to in the last episode, and I mean this has been incredible to discuss these twists and turns because I think we can. I think people will understand now what I've taken away from speaking to you is that just going back through your timeline, you've had wanting to understand how things work. Understanding there's opportunity, understanding that you need to get out there and get involved in it if you want to sort of get to the next level. Then you've done that through the mechanical engineering, and then you've done that again through when you've taken the trip to Ibiza. You've done that again when you went to the social supply and moved up a level. So it's always been something that you've done. And then when it all went fucking sideways because by your own words you said, look, I just overcooked the pudding or over-egged the pudding, you were going too far, too much, and you were young. You were caught up in the lifestyle, and you've then sort of kept the same traits that have helped you get success, but been able to dial out some of the things that caused your wheels to fall off. Because thinking outside the box in terms of going to Newcastle twice to get a same-day passport is a hilarious masterstroke in terms of taking the morality out of it, and or whatever you would see as the right thing. It's an incredibly smart thing to do. You just think that it's brazen, it's ballsy, it's got a hint of fucking wisdom about it. Where you go, look, maybe not using that set of circumstances to prove that wisdom, but that's the sort of angles that you need to look at. These are the sort of ways that you need to see things so that you can get yourself to the next level.
That's the whole being tricky thing, where if you can channel that in the right direction in terms of business, health, whatever it may be, your marriage, if you've got that element of tenacity about you, you should do reasonably well in life.
Right. Another thing is, like, considering how much abuse you've gave your body, it's remarkable that you appear completely healthy.
Well, ironically, I've actually had a full MOT out here, which isn't as cheap as you think. It's actually a small fortune. on about $150. And I'm good, but my testosterone was low. So I started my TRT.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have my levels done. So then I started to increase the TRT, which was a cost. And then I thought the last 2 weeks I'll really ramp it up. So I started doing 3 mil of testosterone, which is about 700 to 800 milligrams a week, which is a lot. And I got my scores, which I'll send up here, to over 2,000 or 21 nanodroles, I think it is. So I've got them super high, which I don't need to be like that. I mean, I need to lose a bit of my gut, but I'm quite tall. So I'm going to go back to the TRT and see if I can sort of regulate my bloods or my test levels at a TRT dose. And then, we'll see. Listen, I'm 40. I look back in my 20s and my 30s. Okay, I did a little stint in jail. I've never
Did you change any of it?
Well, it's a funny one because if I never went to jail, I would never have probably found day trading. I would never, and I probably essentially wouldn't be here. All the people I've had in my life have pretty much stayed. I've had a lot of love, laughter, and memories. And the only negative thing is probably the jail, really. I mean, let's have it right. I lived a rock and roll lifestyle, which, when you explain it and tell it as it is, it does sound quite sexy. There is some come downs after that, or there is a little bit of money management, or there is a little bit of a negative side to it. But fundamentally, it were a bit of a crazy time, to be honest.
We'll see if there's anybody in that game right now that's this where you were at. What advice would you give them? What would you say to them?
I mean, obviously, I'd like to say get out and run for the hills, but you've got to.
Do you think you back then would have listened to that?
Well, there was a time when I was actually leaving the B for the first time when I met the girl from Miami. I had a few quid. And I was going to get a house, and that was going to be me. So I was going to go to Miami for a bit of a holiday, get a little house, sit there with me slippers on like I am now, and that was going to be me. But, the powers that may be saw fit that wasn't to happen, that I lost a chunk of my float and gave it all up to be a lunatic and a bit of a rock and roll idiot once again. Listen, it's a funny one because they've all done it, haven't they? Whitney Houston, various other celebrities, Freddie Mercury, and all these guys, Elvis. I think there's been an element of drink and drugs and that rock and roll lifestyle that gets you all. I mean, I feel quite blessed in one sense that I came here in my early 30s. I've had my 40th birthday here. I'm well on top of my health. Don't need a lot out here. Now I'm a famous podcaster. Looks like I'll be doing some more of these for other people. And I enjoy just telling the little journey as well as my work. I tell people what I'm trading. I'm bullish on the day. I'm bearish on the day. I don't have massive wins or massive losses. Open and honest with my trades and what I'm doing and my social media. And I just like to bring people on the journey, really, that I'm just a normal guy. Not half as intelligent as I think I am, but I have lived a colourful life, and it's nice.
Well, I'm sure people will enjoy the story. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about it and picking your brain because it was a great first episode. And I'm no doubt if you want to get into the podcasting game, there will be many people that love to hear more about what you're up to. And it'd be great to have you back on. Maybe we can do another episode on a bit more in depth the trading, because some of the comments that I got were funny. They were funny because I think people enjoyed sort of two guys having a chat that maybe had a slightly different view on particular parts and definitely agreed on some of the parts. And I think that sort of discussion is good. I think it's good to have. It's good to see different perspectives and different thoughts. So if you're up for it, it'd be great to get you back on another time and see what else we can chat about. Even if you want to do some conspiracy theories, because And, there's no shortage of them.
Well, I think life would be boring if everybody's the same. And I think there's been someone similar to myself in a few people's lives where they know someone that knows someone. Mine was a little bit more out there because it was in the papers and so on and so forth. And the conspiracy theories, I think they're all drying up now because they're all coming true.
I know we need a new batch. We're going to need. I mean, it's going to need to be aliens or inner Earth or something. There's going to be the real fringe stuff that seemed too far, because
it might be facts like what we're telling you now. Anyway, but yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed it. Thanks again. I mean, I'm only joking. I'm not really going to be going down the podcast route. It's been a pleasure. I've got myself a little camera, but I don't have the time, truthfully, because I trade the Asian, European, and the American sessions, which is typically 2 hours a day, which is 6 hours. I go to the gym and my food. That's another couple of hours, and then I've got my social media and my team to manage, and that's another couple of hours. So before you know it, you've done 10 hours a day, which, yes, it's nice in paradise. Don't get me wrong. I was over in Krabi this week seeing about some land and some opportunities that my mates want to do over there. So. I want to see what Thailand's got to offer now, because I don't want to be wasting any money. I like to put that to work, and obviously over here there's cheaper opportunities in terms of property and whatnot. But
great stuff, Robbie.
All the best.
All the best, mate. Thanks. Well, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Conversations with an Investor. We have Robbie on, who really went into it. I mean, there was no stone left unturned in terms of his life, the underworld, the criminality, the drugs, the rock and roll, and then when the wheels came off. And then, more importantly, how he got out the other side. If you want to follow along for Robbie's story, check out his social media pages and see what he's up to. He's a colourful guy and wears his heart on his sleeve. And it just goes to show, no matter how far down the hole that you think you are, you can always come back out the other side. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I will see you again on the next one.